Welcome to another episode of the Hobbyist Game Guys podcast, the show where we talk about video games, D&D, and all things nerdy. I'm your host, Noah, and today, Jack's out of the country, so we've got a very special guest in the studio. It's my pleasure to introduce the world builder, the lore master, the historian, and some might even say the Prince of Giran, my good friend, Sam. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. That's a heck of an intro. The world builder, eh?
Well, your credits don't do it justice, you know?
Uh, it's coming from another guy who also is very much a world builder. I'll just have everybody know. So,
I appreciate
that.
It. And we're going to get into that quite a bit in this episode. So we both have played D&D together quite a bit over the last, I would say, 5-6 years. And so we have a lot to cover just in terms of, DMing styles and the various games we've played and stuff. But before we do that, why don't we start with, how do we know each other? Why don't you set the scene for us here?
It's actually really funny because we were talking about this the other day. And it's one of those strange, I guess, benefits of COVID or good sides of COVID. So Noah and I have a good friend in common who invited us both randomly to a game of Catan one night on Tabletop Simulator. And we started playing, and while we were playing, it was just one of those things like, oh, do you mind if my buddy Noah's there? I know you guys haven't met. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. And next thing we know, we started hitting it off. And I mentioned in passing, oh, I had just played my first remote game of D&D. And I'm like really down to try this again. This game's really fun. And then Noah just goes, oh, yeah, I used to love playing D&D. I played it all the time. And I was like, oh, well, I was actually considering starting a game up, and my friends don't play. So knowing that there was a guy suddenly who I'm talking to for the last few hours who was interested in playing D&D, who had experience playing D, more than I did at least, was a huge, huge bonus. So next thing I know, Noah is one of the original 7 characters of my first mini campaign that went sideways. And from there, we became super close friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's first of all, I do want to just point out, starting any sort of D&D game as your first time DMing with 7 players, that's a big mood.
Wasn't smart.
Well, I mean, for better or for worse, we did play, we can get into that. We played for a while, but we had a great time, and I think we clicked on a lot of the different interests that we had in common. And we've been playing D&D together for the last 5-6 years, and we've got a lot to get into. So I'll put it into your court. Where do you want to start? Well, and maybe to further introduce yourself, do you want to talk about video games first? Do you want to talk about D&D first? What are you feeling?
I know that's a big theme on the show, is what are you playing these days? What are you gaming these days? My gaming is way different than what you guys play. I mean, I have dabbled in Baldur's Gate and what have you, but as Noah knows, I never get past 2 hours in. I'm always like, I don't have time to put into this. So instead, I put my time into a lot of grand strategy games. I play a lot of Crusader Kings, and that's kind of my RPG outlet because I'm a big history nerd. And then I also recently been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one. It's actually really fun, but I mean, really frustrating too. You start as a blacksmith and you don't know anything about anything. So you're just kind of figuring it out as you go. But it's really cool and immersive because you feel like, oh, I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to ride a horse. You don't even know how to read. So when you pick up a book, it has all the letters mixed together, and slowly the letters come together as you practice reading. So it's a really, really cool game, and it's super immersive. So that's been really fun.
The full medieval sim that we didn't know we needed.
It's like Skyrim, but you make it way more realistic. And you start to fight one guy and you're like, this is pretty tough. And then you fight 2 or 3 dudes and you have no chance. You have no chance.
Yeah.
The game combat isn't even designed for it. It's you should probably run. So it's been fun. It's a cool game.
Okay, that's awesome. And but you've your forte or a genre that you've gone back to a lot is what is it called? The grand strategy? There's a
grand strategy.
Grand strategy.
So the Paradox games. I'm sure there's going to be one or two people out there who are like, yes, that's it. That's the stuff. But yeah, a lot of Europa Universalis 4,
Okay.
CK3,
Do you have
Crusader
a
Kings
Civ? Do you
3.
have a favorite Civ game?
Favorite Civ game? I played a lot of Civ 5 at one point.
Okay.
But no, I never got into 4X's too much. I'm notorious for not finishing games. Noah and I are like the opposite end of the spectrum. He's like, oh, I just 100% did this. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. It's like so antithetical. My brain is like a goldfish. I go from place to place way too much.
It is
So,
true. Having known you for over 5 years, I'm like, okay, what's Sam's new hobby this week?
it's awful. It's awful. Yeah, I wish I had the commitment Noah had.
We should call you Kickstarter Sam next time.
Guilty of that too. Guilty of that too.
But anyway,
But yeah, those
so
are my
that's
things.
what you've been playing. I've just been. I don't want to get too into it. I'll save it for a future episode. But Baldur's Gate 3 Honor Mode run. I did
Can't
finish
believe
it.
this.
I finished it, my friend, and I am now an Honor Mode champion.
Wow. So how do you feel?
Empty. No,
Empty.
no, I feel great. It honestly felt great, but then it really was. I was almost like, all right, now what do I do next? What's my next Baldur's Gate
Right.
run gonna be? And I think it's gonna be an evil playthrough with the Dark Urge origin, but yeah, we'll see when I can actually start that.
How long is the playthrough?
I have no idea. It's a black hole.
You're so in the sauce.
Especially if it's your first playthrough, it's gonna be over 100 hours. Like, there's no way it's not.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's just too much.
yeah. But let's go from Baldur's Gate 3, and we can now talk a little bit about some D&D stuff. So you actually inspired me to get into DMing because I've brought it up on the show before. I don't know if you know this, but I had a bad experience DMing like way back in the day.
I did not know this.
Yeah, I'd been given the starter set, like the 5th edition starter set, and I was like, okay, I can get into this. I had watched maybe a little Critical Role or something, and I was like, yeah, okay, like I kind of get the sense of what this is. I really didn't know much. Like, I really didn't know the difference between like a spell attack roll and a saving throw. And I got my friends, my regular friends who, I've played some video games here and there, similar interests in that regard, but D&D is not for everybody. And I would say one person took it seriously. One person was making a joke out of it and trying to cut off people's dicks and stuff.
Yeah, there's always that guy.
Yeah, and then one person just like out to lunch, had no idea what was going on. Way too intense of a game for him. So
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really go so well, and I kind of got discouraged at that point. And it was really only after I had played a bit in like local game stores in university, and then it was only when you had DM'd for me and we had been playing your game for a while, that's when I was like, oh, maybe I can give it another shot. And then you really encouraged me to actually give it another shot. And yeah, I mean, maybe my wife would complain about this if she can go back with a time machine, but
Yeah, yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
yeah.
That was a special conversation. I remember that when you started talking about it. I think I want to go and do it. And it wasn't the first time you DM'd for me, because I remember we did Descent into Avernus, right? You DM'd Descent into Avernus, I think,
Well,
before we did your homebrew, right?
yeah. Well, I had done first off, I just started with like a one shot, right? I think I just did
Yeah.
like an online one shot, group of people. I don't even really no, I don't think I did. I think we just jumped into Avernus.
I think we
Yeah.
went right in.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
think you got the module, and I think you're like, hey, I think I'm going to do this with, we had, I think, 3 or 4 other players, and some of them were from my game, some of them were, your wife and, other people. And it was, honestly, I went in with very low expectations. I thought it was going to be, not from you, I thought it was going to be one of those things where it's like, this is going to be super on rails and it's just going to be combats and challenges like every 3 seconds. And it really did, thanks to your DMing and there was like controlled looseness about it, if that makes sense, right? There was a structure that the book gave, but the way that you allowed the players to kind of explore that structure made it really fun, and it was still open enough. And that's when I was like, first things first, this is a really cool experience to do, a railroaded kind of campaign. But I was like, dude, there's no question. Like, you got to do this. You got to make your setting and go for it because you have the ability to do it. And I mean, to no one's surprise, you did an awesome job.
Yeah, I mean, I really loved that campaign, Descent into Avernus. I think it's a fun module. I also think that it was a decent module to start with, as
Yeah.
like, first DMing experience. And I think if I ever were to run it again for whatever reason, I could definitely do a better job and make it more open and a little less on rails and stuff. But, when you're starting off, you're scared, and but honestly, everybody was great. Like, all the players were so nice, everybody was so nice to me, and like willing to like let the story unfold, and curious about the plot and the characters and stuff. So but yeah, that's what really just got me, and especially the game that you ran got me inspired to actually run my own homebrew game.
Oh, it's always nice to inspire people to do things. I mean, I was very fortunate that I had players who, first of all, were curious. And like you said, your players make the game. And really, if they're not buying in, forget it. And they did buy in. And I had that fear that, everybody's going to goof off and everybody was going to get bogged down in rules or maybe not get bogged down in rules enough. And it took some time. And actually, you probably remember this, Noah, but there were two campaigns. The first one was actually running for, I think it was 9 sessions. We got nine or 10 sessions in, and the players made some strange decisions that ended up in a very dark turn in the campaign. And Noah knows this. I'm a big grim dark fan. So for me, I was like, I'm real willing to take it there. And the players ended up in a situation where it wasn't a TPK, but I think like 3 or 4 people died out of the 7. And then the other people were very true to their characters and like, well, listen, in the wake of this, I would probably walk away and not stay with this group. There was like to not get into detail, but there was essentially like it resulted in like a war crime or something along those levels. It got really bad, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to be associated with this. And I was like, that's very realistic, and that's probably what would happen to this party in that case.
Yeah,
and then from there we learned and evolved.
Yeah, and I do think the reason why the characters would have gone different ways, and that's what happened, was because we did just start off as those characters were part of a one shot together, right?
Yeah.
And nobody had similar goals or backgrounds. Like, there was no real cohesive reason for us to all be like traveling together.
Yeah.
And so those characters did stay together for a bit, and then when things went nuts and there was it was like some sort of rebellion or explosion or something along those lines.
Yeah, there was like a political faction that launched basically like a terror attack, and they got involved in it somehow because they tried to play both sides of the fence, and they had to like buy into the plot to show that they were willing to do it. Failed some checks, and like next thing you know, they were like parties to this really bad attack, and they're like, oh shit, like this is bad.
I'll give you credit for that, because I think obviously, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but as a DM, I do want to see, my players and their characters succeed, but also you do need to punish, you do need to have consequences for times when A, the dice roll poorly, and B, kind of fence sitting, like not making decisions or trying to play both sides. Like, you do need to kind of put some real consequences into place. Otherwise, nothing's ever going to get done.
100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Without consequence, I mean, the story doesn't matter. And for me, D&D is really a vehicle to a story. I mean, there's people like, I get it, like you're playing Adventures League or, Tomb of Annihilation or whatever it might be. Like, yeah, you're going to build some min-max munchkin kind of character and get like 4,000 feet of speed. But like, for me, it was always about the world and the story and the characters within it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I mean I loved the setting that you built. That's why I called you the lore master, the world builder. But so that game ended, and
Yeah.
then what happened? We all got back together. I mean, surprisingly, there were a bunch of people who were playing who I don't know, maybe they were just playing because there was nothing better to do, or because it was kind of COVID lockdown, and they did
Mhm.
want to come back though for the next campaign.
Yeah. Everybody, it was actually crazy. So I was DMing another campaign in the original setting that we just talked about for another group of 7 people. And then I decided I want to explore something different with this group and really go for it. And this time I was very deep into Critical Role. I was really inspired by Matt Mercer and I was reading a lot of books. COVID was really this time where I became very creative because there was really nothing to do. And I found myself DMing 2 groups of 7 people, which was, I don't recommend it. And it's probably not even possible without COVID. But I made a concerted effort to really have, it wasn't even a session zero. It was like multiple session zeros with this group that Noah was a part of. And it was, everybody had a one-on-one conversation with me about their characters for like at least an hour and how they fit in to the wider world, which I kind of tailored a little bit more to be in keeping with everybody else's values or expectations, I would say. It's like not everybody wants to be in this hyper grim, dark, Witcher, Malazan, Book of the Fallen kind of. That's not what everybody wants. So I had a conversation and we found like a nice middle ground and we kind of built this thing that was taking elements of a lot of different things that I had read. And I remember I threw out this idea to everybody and I was like, what if you guys were like sand pirates? Like you had a boat that sailed on a skiff cutting through the sand in the desert and you were kind of like pirates or traders or explorers on that boat. And everybody was like, that sounds really cool. And you could all be crew members of that boat. And that was what gave birth to, yeah, the campaign that became the Chronicles of Oriaphir
Woo!
and the Voyages on the Wind Dancer, which was a really, like, now that I'm talking about it again, like it was a really special, special story.
It was a lot of fun. I think I learned a lot as a player in that game because I would say that I was still, and I'm still growing as a player too, but I was definitely growing as a player then. And especially, how to share the floor with 7 people on a,
It's hard.
Discord call. Like, that's very difficult. That's very difficult to do when you're only playing for, 3 hours once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was, I mean, I thought it was a great campaign. I still, spoilers, it didn't end, or rather it did end,
No.
but not the way that we would have wished, let's say.
Yeah. It's one of the regret. Some people say like you have eyes too big for your stomach. This was, yeah, a campaign too big for the moment, I guess. And it got to a place where I had so many ideas of what I wanted to do. And I think we got to more than 50 episodes. We got to,
It
yeah, like
was
somewhere around that.
significant. Yeah, it was
It was a
significant.
lot and long sessions, like 3.5, 4 hour sessions.
Yeah.
Um, and it was basically every week. We were really committed, and COVID allowed that. And this was while I was doing this other campaign, and that campaign went 37 sessions.
Oh my
So it
God.
was a lot of DMing. And when we got to episode like around like 40, I had a chance to kind of get off the highway and kind of pivot down and start to wind the story up. And I decided, I'm like, no, there's this whole other act, maybe even 2 acts that I wanted to explore. And you guys were, I think, like level 8 or something like that at the time. You weren't like super high leveled because I also don't believe in uber high leveled campaigns, especially with 7 players. It gets really dumb.
Yeah,
Um,
combat is, yeah, it
it's a
was.
joke. It's a joke.
I mean,
We, we,
it's really hard to balance, but also it just takes a really long time.
it takes a really long time. Some people get very tactical with combat. Some people get very creative with combat. Some people play fighting characters, and they're very railroaded and they're really quick. I remember listening to another episode where you guys were talking about, the whole idea of keeping the combat 30 seconds a person. Does very hard to do that, and huge kudos that you can do that, Noah. But
Well,
yeah,
it's
it got
let's
tough.
just say it's something to strive for, but I don't know if I always achieve that, especially when like, the level 10 druid is like, "Oh, wait, no, I was gonna cast this, but I can't. Let me look at my spell list." It's like, "No, dude, like this is gonna take
It's brutal.
forever."
It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal
So it got, yeah, I would say it got kind of, I think we were all looking for different things at that point as well. Some
for
people
sure.
were a little bit more checked out because, life was returning to normal and maybe they didn't have the time or the energy to focus on that. Other people were more invested. And yeah, the killer of more D&D campaigns than any big bad evil guy is, I guess, scheduling and time and management like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
scheduling the time.
Yeah.
They crush it. So yeah, it fell apart.
Yeah, I would still love one day to return in some manner or another, whether it's, in the future or new characters or a one shot or whatever. I'd love to somehow put a bow on that story.
I would love to as well. I don't know how it would be possible to get everybody back together at this point. But I guess like if I had one message, and I remember, I think even Noah, you and I had this conversation when you were doing your campaign, which also got to, how many sessions was it when we ended?
So I think we were maybe around like 30 to 35 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds about right. I remember we started talking about, do you have regrets about not ending the campaign? And I knew based on kind of how the story was going in Noah's campaign, I was like, I wonder if he's going to wind us down. And I told him, like, one of my biggest regrets was not putting a bow on it. And when we did complete Noah's campaign, which by the way was really excellent because his world was so diverse. Mine kind of had this kind of theming that it felt like a familiar tie wherever you went, but Noah's world had everything from cowboy gunslingers to wild Slavic kind of tribes to like elements of like certain like Wheel of Time cultures and things like that. And it was really cool because wherever you went, it felt like almost like a new pocket campaign.
Mm.
And it still at the end of it kind of came together and everybody had like a little moment in the sun and we all, we got together in person and we did that final episode and it was really special. I still have my mini. I'm in the middle of packing up some stuff in my apartment. I found my mini and I was like, oh man, good times.
Yeah, that was really special, and I think, yeah, I kind of got to the point where it was getting really hard to schedule games.
Yeah.
Even online, like it was just, we would go months. Sometimes it would literally be like, okay, it's summertime, we'll talk in October or whatever. And I was like, I don't want this to just drag on. Everybody's gonna forget what we were doing, and it was a little contrived because it's very hard to go from, a kind of bigger event that happened actually with your character in the game. And it's hard to go from
Yes.
that to like, okay, now we need to jump to the end game. But and we knew we were going to have a long break because of scheduling and stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit down and I rewrote that last session. I rewrote it so many times. Like
Really?
yeah, because I kept on having to think like, no, this doesn't make sense. Or what if we did this? And how are we going to get them there? And like, what are we going to do to get Sam's character back for him? And, so there was a lot of rewrites and stuff that happened because I wanted it to be nice and I wanted everybody to have like kind of a moment for their character and their backstory and stuff. Some characters had more backstory than others, let's just say.
Yeah.
Some characters maybe forgot that they had a child.
That did happen. That wasn't me, but that did happen. That was hilarious and also like as a DM, like, come on at the same moment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but I was happy. I was very happy with how it ended. Everybody had a great time. And actually, funny story, I'll give you a little teaser today. I had a little bit of time and I was like looking through my Google Drive and I was like, oh, there's the name of the world is Yggdrasil. So I was looking through the Google Drive and like the documents and final sessions. Like, man, so much nostalgia, even though it was only about a year ago that we finished. And I was like, what would happen if I ever ran something in the future in this world, like what would that look like? And I was just
Right.
sitting down, writing out some stuff. What would this future in Yggdrasil look like? Maybe like 500 years in the future. Yeah, I was just kind of right back into the DM workshop, and it was fun. And I don't know, maybe there's a world where a few of us get together online, do a few sessions. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would certainly be really cool.
Yeah.
It's so funny, eh? Like you get into this place where you're burned out as a DM, and you every week, like it's a thank job in that your players obviously have a great time. But I really think unless you've done it, you don't realize, especially with your own homebrewed content, how much work it is. It's really the creative part of it for me was always the most fun, but turning that into open-ended experiences that give your players the liberty to do what they want to do with your creation, which is a handoff in and of itself, but coming up with that framework and then building in structured confrontations, encounters, challenges, things like that within it is another labor. And then building the maps, and especially, it's very different when you're in person and you have a mat and you have a marker and you just, yeah, you're in this box and you're going to go from here and this is 25 feet and you can just, that's fine and dandy, but, you're trying to immerse people when you're online and remote, and it's just so different. And you need to kind of leverage all the different VTTs, virtual tabletops, and all the tools you have to try to do it. And you'd have like one night you're spending 2 hours doing the writing, another night you're spending an hour doing the encounters, another night you're spending an hour doing who knows.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. It's a lot. And then suddenly you end up in a place where you don't want to do it anymore. And then for some stupid reason, like months later, you're like, oh, I just want to write again. I'll do it again. I'm ready to get hurt again.
Exactly. It is just that meme, right? Like I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like rose-colored glasses, or I guess maybe it's the human propensity to always remember the good times and to not remember the bad stuff that you don't like as much. And maybe that's what it is. But yeah, there's something to it. It's just addictive, and it's just addictive. You just think about all the hours that you played in this world with your friends, and you're like, let's run it back.
I always find myself, I don't know about how, I would love to hear your side of this, Noah, but for me, I love reading fantasy. I mean, I've read a lot of fantasy over the years, and a lot of times I'll read something and it will give me an idea of taking, let's say, an element from here and an element from there and something that I've thought of in my brain. And I would just say, it would be so cool to tell a story with this element. And then you turn it into something for your D&D campaign. And I'm not talking about, like, I have been reading the Stormlight Archive and I really want to have, people in shard plate. It's like, all right, cool. Like if you want to do that, like I'm sure you can find a setting. I think Sanderson put out his own material on that, but all this to say, like there might be something within that that's cool that you're like, oh, that would be a cool element to fit into my storytelling and my settings, and I want to play it my way.
Yeah.
And I have found that kind of lent itself to building different chunks of the world that I built in addition to history. But I'm really curious, like, how did you go about creating Yggdrasil with the different pockets of very diverse cultures? I was kind of alluding to it before, but how did that come together for you?
Yeah, I think we have very different processes, because I think that's an aspect of the game that I struggle with more. I think what I excel at more is maybe encounter building and dungeon creation and stuff. Like I love like building a multi-floor dungeon with puzzles and things that maybe don't make sense to actually exist in a world, but it's just fun to like have your players run through, and kind of like you were alluding to before, the world was very vast and diverse and different cultures and forest tribes and mountain people, and I don't know, I think I just had a map that I got through something. I don't even remember. I didn't make it originally, but I had a map, and I was like, yeah, I guess I gotta just like populate this, and maybe these are gonna be like, this more like feudal Japanese culture, which we didn't even ever go to really. And then there was, this more. I guess the main part of the game took place in a more, I don't know, classic fantasy like D&D Sword Coasty kind of
Yeah.
place. And then we went to, also I will say, all the players' backstories and stuff really helped me, because you were like, hey, I want to play this sort of Slavic warrior. And so I'm like, okay, there's going to be this Slavic warrior race that's living in the foothills of the mountains, and they're going to have this enemy, and the great enemy of the Grey Wolf are these kind of imperial European knights that are you're always at war with. So I think the player backstories really, really helped, and I would definitely encourage DMs to talk to their players even when they're world building, because you're gonna get great ideas. You're gonna get great stuff, and you're also not gonna have to like shoehorn them in. Okay, you fit in this province or you fit in this city. It's gonna be like, okay, I can build a whole country or a whole province or whatever just for your character and your backstory. And I think that also helps for player engagement too, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to, that was like a really nice feeling being able to have so much say in my backstory, and it made me buy in way more.
Yeah.
But you're not always going to have that amount of buy-in from your players. But I mean, for me, I basically came to you and I was like, this is where, like this, in a perfect world, I'm from this. I think I even approached you the first time about it, and I said, I was thinking about creating this for my campaign, and I never got around to it. And I think it'd be a really cool kind of culture to explore as a character. And you're like, well, tell me about it. And then you're like, yeah, I can put that in. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I give me a player in my exact setting. So that was
Exactly.
really fun. And the buy-in was immediate. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the players, like one of them, like you mentioned, wanted to play like a gunslinger cowboy kind of guy, and she's not maybe the best at writing backstories or doesn't care
Right.
to, and she just wants like the mechanical feeling of playing a character,
Mm-hmm.
and so she's like, yeah, I want to play a cowboy or whatever. So I just said, okay, you're from here, and this is a kind of a more westerny kind of area, and you're a bounty hunter, and little bits of backstory. I tried to encourage her to provide a little more, but let's just say maybe backstory is not everybody's thing.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
It
But
happens.
I don't know. I think that's kind of what was my process in the world building. And then also I had to fill in a lot of stuff like as I went. There was definitely not a cohesive, and I don't even think it is cohesive. I think it's just I would see something in media that I liked and I'd be like, cool, I want to have that in my game. If I was doing it now, maybe I'd be like, I'm going to add some of this like anime shit into my game or whatever. And I think that's totally fine too. I'm not making any money
Yeah.
off of it. If I copy something or, lift something from somewhere else, that's totally okay.
Yeah. I get that. I like that. Like you said, we have super different kind of philosophies. For me, like it has to make sense. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't, I would never, and I think you noted this, like I would never build something in the setting that doesn't make sense on the opposite end of the world.
Yeah.
Like it all has to have some kind of grounding in a global geopolitical reality. That doesn't mean that cultures are all the same. I mean, like in my world, I have tribes of dark-skinned elves who are inspired by like deep Central African kingdoms, which is a very different way of imagining elves. And then I'll have like Celtic warriors. We explored that very briefly in another side campaign. And then we had this kind of like Dune-esque medieval world that we got very deep into. So they don't sound like they could be interconnected, but as you explored it all, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. There's somehow all related to this one central thing that happened, and they all have explanations for why they exist in that way. But I don't think most people want to think it through that much.
I don't know.
For
Yeah,
me,
I guess
that's the
it's
fun.
just style, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I think I could learn a lot from that approach. it's just, yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm just like, I like all this stuff. Let's put it in. And,
Yeah.
look, at the end of the day, if people are having fun, that's really all that matters. So some people are going to be big lore heads and they're going to want to be like, okay, but why is there a church of the Holy Light in the city of Maori? And what is their goal? And other people are just going to be like, let's go to the bar and like, just like roll dice or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's always what happens. When you go to the bar and want to kill everybody, you're like, ah, okay, good.
Yeah, pretty
Need
much.
new players.
Pretty much. Okay, let's this is a wow, huge segment. Let's
Huge
take
segment.
let's take our first break and we'll come back and we'll get on to the next stuff. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. So we thought we would take the next few minutes, talk maybe a shorter segment than the first like 30 minutes of this episode.
That was a long one.
Yeah, but we'll talk about just kind of some of our favorite highlights or memorable moments from some of the games, the D&D games we've played. Do you want to go first, Sam?
Yeah, sure. One that sticks out to me, kind of going back, we were just talking about it before, Noah gave me a lot of liberty to make this character that I wanted to make. And it was this kind of like Conan the Barbarian, Karsa Orlong, if you've read Malazan, kind of character who was not very charismatic and had this just need to prove himself and to show how epic of a warrior he was, because he had to go back to his tribe and show them that he was deserving to be like the war master, the war leader of his tribe. And we were on a boat in a storm, and my character was like from the plains. First of all, he'd never been on a boat, and he was like, "This is a very strange experience." Like he was like very, very off put by it. And we ended up in a freak storm. I think we were also getting attacked at the same time by like pirates or something. And then out of nowhere, if you haven't played D&D, there's this monster called the Maw of Sokola. It's this gigantic two-headed great white shark freak thing. And Noah was like, the idea here is very simple. You're in a very bad situation. You need to get out of this situation. You like run. And my character was like, why would I run? And it was like, it was so antithetical to everything they did. So everybody kind of gets on the boat. We're all leaving. And then I turned to the cowboy character that we were talking about before. And I just said, witness me. And I dove into the ocean in a lightning storm and proceeded to fight the Maw of Sokola underwater, very close to dying, and ended up, I think, strangling it with a chain. Mm-hmm. And I pulled one of its teeth out. I got back onto the boat and I held up the tooth and I was like, we can go now. And it was just like this. I was like, wow, I really wanted that to happen, but holy shit, it worked. And it was really, really fun. And then later on, I got to go on this like bragging chain in front of my home tribe and I was showing them all the trophies and I pulled out the tooth.
Well, and I think that also set off your character as like this trophy hunter, right? So every time he would kill an enemy, it would be like, okay, what can I harvest from their corpse?
Every time I was like, Noah, what's on their body that looks like it's of value? And I put each piece, I hooked it on this massive chain and I put the chain all over my body. So I was covered in these trophies and I would take it everywhere. And anytime I would meet somebody, I had no charisma. And all I would do was I'd be like, this is what I took from Niklar. This is his crown. And they're like, do you want another beer, sir? And I was like, forget the beer. And it was like all about like all of his deeds. He had no social skills.
One thing I will say that I really appreciate about that game is that there was no like idea of this like party face. Like there were characters with high charisma, but usually it would just be like a free for all and who's talking and who's, making the social checks and stuff. And I really do love that when players are not so like, oh, actually, who has the highest wisdom? Because we're going to need to do a perception check. So we're going to need you to go first. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
yeah.
I hate when
100%.
people talk about stats on a paper. I'm like, we're not playing stats on a paper game. We're playing D&D. It's a story. And some games are better for that than others. But yeah, that game, I loved that. Everybody was just like so involved in the story and so many weird characters, such a weird, eclectic group. But somehow it all kind of worked in a weird way.
Totally. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it was. And it was in a really funny sense. We only had two characters that were even really capable of being a face,
Yeah.
right? You had Faden, who is a paladin,
Hmm.
who who didn't really want to be a face. He was a newer player
Yeah.
and used it in very strange ways. And then you had obviously, our buddy who played my character's traveling companion, who was like a tiefling sorcerer
Yeah.
who was
Alistair.
charismatic, but he was a weird guy and like
He was a weird
didn't know how
guy
to talk.
and was mostly chill with everybody else doing whatever they wanted.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody abused like, face stats, I would
Yes,
say.
exactly. So as for me as a
I was
player, I
gonna
mean,
say, what was yours?
so I've already talked about my some of my favorite moments from my game in previous episodes, but from yours, from the Orifear game, I definitely
Ooh.
remember. First of all, in the very first episode, there was a combat. You know, we were out in the sands on our sand boat, and
Hmm.
we get attacked by giant scorpions. And one of our friends jumps down there with his ranger, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to attack him with my short swords a couple of times. No worries." And he was the only one down in the sands when the scorpion's turn rolled around, and they absolutely just swarmed him and killed him so fast.
Yeah.
And we are all like, "Oh my god, this he means business with this campaign."
Yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore.
We are not in Kansas anymore. And outside of that, I mean, I was playing a fighter, which is one of my go-to classes, but I was also playing kind of a bumbling guy who doesn't really know how to talk, but he did like to talk, but maybe didn't always do such a great job of it. Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun character to play. It was the Drassith Trictolanus with a very deep voice.
He had a very deep, handsome voice,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
He was a very cool character. That was a really cool character. That was one that, again, like a guy who didn't talk. Again, he wasn't like a face, but your backstory also, it started off as something kind of basic and it turned into something really advanced and cool. And you started to make these relationships with these other similar kind of warrior minded societies. And it wasn't so much about talking and all that, but it was like mutual respect about swordcraft and your abilities and holding tokens of each other. It was very, very cool.
Yeah.
That was a really fun
And
character.
he ultimately did kind of get the respect of the one kind of nobleman that he was looking for respect for. So I guess his story actually probably did end. At least his backstory kind of did wrap up with that.
Yeah, it did. It
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
Cathartic.
That's a short segment. We can talk about these home games till the cats come home, but why don't we
Yeah.
take one more quick break and we're gonna come back with a different style of 20 questions, okay?
Sounds good.
Be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It's about time for the final part of the show. We are going to do another session of 20 questions. Sam's first, but we're going to do a little bit differently because this one is going to be fantasy book characters
Oh, baby.
of books that we know that the other person has read at least.
Yeah.
So why don't I guess first because I'm usually terrible and lose this game.
I've seen these stray very far from 20 questions with you, so that's no problem. Let's do it.
Are you keeping count of the question numbers?
I have a counter ready
All
to
right.
go.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
sir.
All right. I'll start off. Is the character a male?
Yes.
Okay. Is the character from a Brandon Sanderson novel?
Yes.
Okay. Um,
Yes.
is the character from a Brandon Sanderson Wheel of Time novel?
Yes, they are in one of the Brandon Sanderson Wheel of Time novels.
Okay. So we've got male Brandon Sanderson Wheel of Time, right? That's
Yeah,
what
you're on
we've
three.
uncovered so far. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the character a villain?
Yes.
Is the character a Forsaken?
No.
Ooh. Okay, that's gonna make things harder. That's gonna make things harder. Who are the non-Forsaken villains? Oh no. Is the oh wait, is the character I'm gonna just shoot off a guess. I don't remember the actual name, but is it the mega guy, the who's the voice of the
The
dark
mega
one?
guy?
The mega guy who's the voice of the dark one who guards the, you know what I'm talking about? The mega fade guy.
Is that the Sheonanra?
Maybe.
Not Sheo.
I'm assuming it's not because you didn't
No,
say
it's
I got
not.
it.
It's not. I know who you're talking about, the super Murdral thing.
Yeah, the super Murderal guy.
No, it's not them. No.
Ah, okay.
Oh, but now it's killing me. What's that thing's name?
Yeah, I don't remember. Is the character the dark one?
No.
Okay.
That's 6.
Yeah, all right. How are we gonna does the character wield the one power?
No, not that I recall. No.
Okay. Oh man, it's been so long since I've read these. This is a
I know.
problem.
I know.
Okay, so the character does not wield the one power. It is a male. Is the character important?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Is the character Moradin? You already said it's not part of the.
No.
Yeah, that was wrong.
That was, is the character Forsaken? No. Is the character Morden? No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
No.
guess you could say like, well,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, no
spoilers for the Wheel of
spoilers, but
Time.
yeah, I guess not. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Is the character a dark friend?
Yes.
Okay. What are we at for number of questions here?
10.
10.
This will be your 11th.
Oh man, this is so difficult. And you said it doesn't wield the one power.
I don't believe so, no. I will confirm,
Okay.
but
And
I'm
you said the
pretty
character
sure the
wields it.
answer is no. The character is, in fact, important.
Is it okay, does the character's story okay, is the character one of the Shan-chan people?
Nope.
Oh. Is the character is he like a swordsman?
I wouldn't call them a swordsman, no.
Is the character involved with Matt's story? No, Perrin's story?
Very little.
Oh my god. Is the character involved in Matt's story?
Yes. At one point, yes.
Oh, wait. No, he's not a dark friend. It's not one of those like snake people. Is it one of the snake people?
No, it's not one of the snake people. That was your 14th. It's a really obscure one. Is it one of the snake people?
I don't even know if they have names.
Oh, I remember now. The Murdral you're talking about was Shaidar Haran.
Shaida Haran, yeah, exactly. This is so hard, man.
The best part is I know, like, if you don't get it, I'm going to tell you and you're going to lose your mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually how these episodes go. Usually I don't get it and then I lose my mind.
Yeah.
Is the character I have involved with the Aes Sedai?
At some point, yes. But I wouldn't say it's like a central component of their arc.
Oh, is the character royalty?
No.
Oh my god.
17. This is your 17th question.
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
Is the character a werewolf guy?
No. That was 17. A werewolf guy. What does it mean? He's scratching with straws. Next thing say, is he a Balrog? Yeah, she's a Balrog.
I'm really struggling to think of any. Wait, did you? I asked if he was like a swordsman. You said no.
I wouldn't say he was a swordsman, no. I'll give you you want a small hint?
Sure.
He likes knives or daggers.
Wait. Is he? It's not the like leader of the Church of Light guy, is it?
No, it is not Bornholt or
It's not
no.
Bornhold. Okay, well, he's a
No.
warrior anyway, so that wouldn't
Yeah.
have.
This is your 19th now.
I think I might just have to tap out. I don't think I'm getting
You're gonna
this.
tap out?
I'm gonna tap out.
The correct answer was Padan Fane.
Oh, of course.
One of the most referenced, consistent bad guys in the whole thing.
You know why? Like, I kind of didn't think about him because he's not. Yeah, like he doesn't wield the one power, but he's so impacted by like dark magic stuff.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of like a more normal like villain guy.
Yeah, you were waiting for like a Samael or something. Ah, it's Samael.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, fair
Sorry.
enough. Fair enough. Okay.
Fair play.
It's your turn.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is this character from the Cosmere?
Yes.
Is this character from the Stormlight Archive?
Yes.
Is this character a villain?
No.
Is this character male?
Yeah.
Is this character a warrior?
That is an interesting question. I would say, how to answer that question? I would say, I would say no, but there's some heavy asterisks there.
Is this character older? Like, when I say older, is this character, let's say, over 40?
I wouldn't say this character is like characterized as being old. I don't know if we ever get like an age.
Is this character a Knight Radiant?
Oh man, that's a great question that I'm trying to remember. If he is a Knight Radiant, it wouldn't have been until way later in the series.
Oh,
And
God.
I don't fully remember. Wait, I can check.
You said he's not really sort of a warrior. Okay.
I can't really say more. I can deduct
I
that
get it,
question
okay.
if you want, but I can't really say more without giving it away, I think.
Is this character bald?
Yes. Yes. That's a great question.
Okay, well, it's not who I think it is if you're taking this long to think about it.
At least partially bald.
Partially bald.
Apparently, I didn't know this. So
Okay, well then it's not that. Is it Death?
no.
Okay.
No.
We'll just put that one. How many questions is that, by the way?
I think I'm at 8.
Oh God, this is tough. You said he's not a villain.
No.
Bald. Jesus. Does this character wear glasses?
No.
That was a really dumb question. Otherwise,
Are there a
that
lot
was
of
like very
characters?
niche.
That was a very Guess Who question.
Are they like a 30-year-old male with a mole? Let me think. Are they from Halithkar?
No.
Oh, God. Oh, hold on. That would be Snake. Are they a Spren?
No.
Oh, okay. Yo, this is gonna be so hard. Is this character like a main character?
He's not a main character like Shallan or Kaladin is a main character, but he's heavily featured, I would say. He's important in one of the main character's stories, you know.
Damn.
Don't worry about the bald thing too much. Don't think about the bald thing because you might not.
I'll just take the shot. Is the character Renarin?
No.
Okay. And now I was thinking, is the character human?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's not Renarin's. Okay, no spoilers. Wow, this is tough. You realize how many characters are on this book?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Oh, is it Wick?
No.
Oh, I thought I had it. Oh, I thought I had that.
Try to narrow it down a little bit. You're not necessarily in the right ballpark.
Is this character royalty?
No.
No?
No. No.
Oh my God.
I think we're at like 15 questions here.
Probably even more, if I'm honest. Who could it be? I keep coming back to the bald thing. You said don't worry
I
about the
said,
bald
don't
thing.
think about the
Yeah,
bald
don't think about the bald thing.
Do you want a hint?
Yeah, I need a hint.
Think about, okay, here's the hint. Maybe he's maybe he's a buddy with Kaladin.
I knew you would say that. It doesn't help me at all.
Maybe he's in, okay, this is a big hint. Maybe he's in the
No,
bridge.
no, 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 no. You can't give me a big hint. Is
Okay.
he the is he a oh, I can't ask that. That's like a heavy spoiler alert from this point on. Are they alive through the whole series so far?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
I'm imagining he's the guy from the mountains. I can't remember his name. With the take a deep breath in, Kaladin. Um, name again.
You're onto something here.
I can't remember his name. Mountain air is
you're
you
saying
have a
he's
thin head lowlander. That guy?
You're saying he's from the mountains. He's what's it? He's an Unkalaki
He's an
guy.
Unkalaki. Yes, yes, yes. He always makes fun of Kaladin for being a lowlander. He makes the spicy stew. I can't remember his name.
You got it though. You did get it. His nickname is Rock.
Yeah, that's why I said Rock. But what's his real name again?
I don't know if I could pronounce it. Numu Hukumakiaki Ayalunamor.
I knew him by that name. You see, I didn't know him by Rock. I knew him by that name. I love when these fantasy writers have really hard names. I'm a big fan of niche, bizarre names.
Yeah. Well, hey, you kind of got it. You kind of got
I
it.
sort of got it.
We'll give it to you. Okay, everybody. With that, thank you so much for listening. If you liked the show, if you liked Sam as our guest host for this week, please leave a like and a comment and whatever else on this podcast. And if you do want to support the show, just share it with a friend. That's the best way to help us grow as a podcast. So, Sam, thanks so much for joining. I don't know if you have anything you want to plug, but you can.
Oh yeah, I got so much content coming. No, I don't have anything to plug. It was a blast being on the show. Always a pleasure talking to you, Noah. And yeah, hopefully I can come back one day. It was a lot of fun.
Please do. And thanks everybody for listening, and have a good one.